On a cold winter morning in January 2021, 48-year-old Trina Hunt vanished from her quiet Port Moody home. Her husband said he left for work at dawn and returned to an empty house. Trina's phone, keys, wallet, and car were all still there. The front door was unlocked, but Trina herself was gone. For weeks, police and volunteers scoured the forests around Heritage Mountain, hoping she was lost or injured nearby. But 2 months later, the search ended in heartbreak. Trina's remains were discovered in a remote wilderness area, more than 100 kilometers away. What started as a missing person investigation had turned into a homicide case that shook a suburban community to its core, and left one burning question behind. Who killed Trina Hunt? Welcome to Bad Things. Join us as we retrace the timeline, explore every theory, and use reason and evidence to uncover what most likely happened. January 18th, 2021. The disappearance. Before dawn on Monday, January 18th, 2021, Ian Hunt says he left his Port Moody home around 6 a.m. for work. He later told police he had seen his wife, Trina Hunt, at home before heading out. When he returned that afternoon, nothing in the house appeared out of place, except for the most important detail of all. Trina was gone. Her cell phone, keys, wallet, and Mercedes SUV were all in place. The front door was unlocked, yet there were no signs of forced entry or a struggle. At 5 p.m., Ian called Port Moody police to report Trina missing. Officers canvassed the neighborhood that evening and even brought in scent dogs, but there was no trace of her. January 19th to 21st, 2021. The search begins. Within days, Trina's disappearance became a community-wide effort. Police coordinated with Coquitlam Search and Rescue, RCMP Air Support, and K9 units. Hundreds of volunteers joined, combing the forests and trails around Heritage Mountain. Neighbors lit fires to keep searchers warm through the long winter nights. Flyers with Trina's photo were taped to storefronts, community boards, and lampposts. Despite the effort, nothing surfaced. On January 21st, after 3 days of exhaustive searching, police suspended the ground search. Investigators explained that the operation had become fruitless and that evidence suggested Trina might not be in the area at all. At that point, officials said they did not yet have proof of foul play. Still, her family and friends were deeply uneasy. It made no sense that Trina walked away from her life, relatives said. They described her as a happy, recently retired woman with plans, no history of mental health struggles, and no reason to disappear. From the beginning, loved ones insisted something was wrong. The weekend before, unanswered questions. Investigators began piecing together Trina's last known days. On Saturday, January 16th, Trina and Ian reportedly drove east to Hope, British Columbia, a 2-hour trip into the Fraser Valley. Ian told family members the couple revisited a campground from their younger years. Curiously, he said they left their phones at home for a digital detox. That same day, a former co-worker texted Trina and got no reply, unusual for someone known to be responsive. The following afternoon, Sunday around 4:30 p.m., the co-worker finally received a message from Trina's number. I'm trying a digital detox this weekend. Haven't touched a phone all weekend. To friends and family, the message felt cold and unlike her usual style. Her cousin Stephanie Ibbott later said, I think it's possible that it wasn't her who sent it. By Ian's account, Sunday was otherwise a quiet, uneventful day. But beyond his version, no one can verify what Trina did. In fact, the last confirmed sighting of her was a store security camera capture on January 14th, 4 days before she disappeared. March 29th, 2021. A grim discovery. For over 2 months, the case remained a mystery. Loved ones held on to hope, even hiring a private investigator. Then, on March 29th, a devastating call came in. Human remains had been found near Hope, south of the Silver Creek area. RCMP attended the scene, and the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team, IHIT, quickly took over. That same day, Ian left the Port Moody home and moved to his parents' house in Mission. Police did not immediately confirm the identity of the remains, but speculation spread quickly. Finally, on May 1st, authorities announced what the family already feared. The remains were Trina Hunt. The case was now officially a homicide. "I felt anger like I've never felt before," Stephanie Ibbett said. "There was no love left in my heart that day." Friends and neighbors held a candlelight vigil in Trina's honor, laying flowers outside the Hunt's home. June 2021. Mounting pressure. On June 1st, 2021, Trina's family announced a $50,000 reward for information. Days later, investigators made a major move. On June 5th, IHIT and Port Moody police executed search warrants at 2 properties, the Hunt's Port Moody home and the Mission residence belonging to Ian's parents. Neighbors saw police cordon off the house with crime scene tape, while forensic teams in white coveralls entered and exited. At the same time, officers searched the Mission property, seizing items and scanning the area with 3D forensic equipment. Both of the Hunt's vehicles were towed as evidence. Police did not reveal what they found, but the focus of the investigation was clear. June 2022. A suspect, then a setback. Nearly a year later, on June 3rd, 2022, IHIT arrested a man in connection with the case. Media quickly confirmed what many expected. It was Trina's husband, Ian Hunt. Neighbors reported seeing him led away in handcuffs around 4 p.m., still wearing slippers. But just 1 day later, on June 4th, he was released without charges. Investigators said the case was still active, but prosecutors did not yet have the evidence needed to proceed. Trina's family called it a crushing disappointment. Her brother Brad Ibbett later said, "We are crushed that still today no one is in custody for the murder of Trina." February 2025. A new development. For years, the case lingered with no resolution. Then on February 4th, 2025, a breakthrough of sorts. The BC Prosecution Service approved a charge, not for murder, but for indignity to human remains. The charge was laid against Ian Hunt. According to IHIT spokesperson Sergeant Freda Fong, the charge applies when someone neglects to perform their legal duty to bury a dead body or interferes with human remains in an improper, indecent, or undignified way. In other words, while police have not announced murder charges, they believe Ian mishandled Trina's body after her death. Ian was released on bail, with a court date set for March 2025. The laying of a charge does not dilute the loss and pain endured by Trina's family and friends, Sergeant Fong said, describing it as a step forward. To this day, no one has been charged with Trina Hunt's murder. Each January, her family lights candles in her memory, hoping that one day the full truth and justice will finally arrive. Trina Hunt's death remains officially unsolved, and over the past 4 years, investigators, journalists, and online sleuths have put forward competing explanations. These theories fall broadly into 3 categories: accident or a voluntary disappearance, a random outside attacker, or foul play close to home. Theory 1. Accident or voluntary disappearance. In the very early days of the search, some people wondered if Trina had left the house by choice or suffered a tragic accident. Accident. One idea was that she might have gone for a walk or hike near Heritage Mountain, slipped, and succumbed to the cold January weather. At first, this seemed plausible enough. The area is surrounded by steep wooded trails. But when her remains turned up more than 100 kilometers away, police dismissed this scenario. There was simply no way she could have ended up there without someone moving her, deciding to walk away. Others speculated that Trina might have chosen to leave her life behind, or even decided to end it. A Reddit user at the time wrote, "It's possible she decided to take her own life. People can hide struggles, and families insisting there were no mental health issues might be mistaken." Her relatives forcefully rejected this suggestion. They emphasized how engaged Trina was with her post-retirement life, making plans with friends, arranging work calls, and talking about the future. There were no financial, marital, or mental health issues, her cousins said. They could not imagine her abandoning everything. The later confirmation of homicide effectively ruled out both of these possibilities. Trina's remains were concealed in a way consistent with foul play, and IHIT does not investigate unless a crime is suspected. Theory 2. A random predator or unknown killer. Another possibility is that Trina was targeted by someone outside her home. Some of her friends initially believed she may have gone for a morning walk and been attacked. One poster at the time suggested, "Her friends think she went walking, so I'm thinking someone jumped her." Finding her remains so far away could fit this theory. Perhaps an unknown perpetrator abducted her, drove east, and left her body in the wilderness near Hope. But the case against this idea is strong. Security cameras around Heritage Mountain never showed Trina leaving on foot or entering another vehicle. Police found no suspicious vehicles, no reports of strangers lurking in the area, and no evidence of a break-in at the house. Importantly, investigators never warned the public of an ongoing threat, something they would likely do if they believed a random predator was responsible. As one commentator put it, aside from suspicion directed at her husband, the only other remote possibility was that she went for a walk and was randomly attacked or abducted. Possible, yes, but nothing ever emerged to support it. Theory 3. Foul play by her husband. From the start, suspicion often came back to Ian Hunt. He was the last person known to see Trina alive and the one who reported her missing. No break-in, no struggle, and all her belongings left behind suggested the culprit was someone with intimate access to her home. Odd behavior. Family members noted that Ian did not actively participate in search efforts. His public presence was limited to carefully worded written statements, while relatives described him and his family as conspicuously absent. The trip to Hope. Even stranger was the couple's supposed digital detox day trip to Hope just 2 days before Trina vanished. The part that makes no sense for me is the drive to Hope on the Saturday without cell phones. And then she is found in Hope, said cousin-in-law Colin Ibbott. The final text from Trina's phone, apologizing for her lack of responses, struck her cousin Stephanie as so unusual that she wondered aloud, "I think it's possible that it wasn't her." Investigative trail. Over the years, police actions have consistently pointed in his direction. Search warrants, seized vehicles, his brief 2022 arrest, and finally the 2025 charge of indignity to human remains all placed Ian at the center of the investigation. Online sleuths drew similar conclusions. "Occam's razor applies here," one Reddit moderator wrote. "The least amount of assumptions is usually the right answer. Even so, no murder charge has been laid. Without a clear cause of death or forensic link, suspicion remains just that, suspicion. Some argue that until prosecutors present a case in court, the husband theory, however compelling, is still unproven." In the years since Trina Hunt vanished, a steady pattern has emerged from the silence. Investigators have never shifted their focus away from her husband, Ian Hunt. The way her family describes it, that focus always felt inevitable. They're not going to escape it, cousin Stephanie Ibbott said about whoever was responsible. It's time to put an end to the suffering, the indignity done to Trina. It's time to come forward and do the right thing. Her words were pointed, but her frustration was born of lived experience. From the first days of the search, she and others noticed Ian's absence. While neighbors trekked through the forests in freezing weather, she recalls he stayed behind, issuing only a carefully worded statement. Friends called the family's public appeals a couple of impotent statements, too polished to sound like genuine grief. The unease deepened online. Internet sleuths noted details that police have never confirmed publicly, but which circulated widely. That Ian's vehicle was spotted leaving the neighborhood early on the morning Trina disappeared. That his Pinterest account showed an odd activity during the search, updating with a quote about people making time if they care. For some, these weren't just quirks, but signals of a man trying to live life as if nothing had happened. By the time Trina's remains were discovered, speculation hardened into conviction. One Reddit moderator who followed the case closely summarized the consensus. Occam's razor applies here. The least amount of assumptions is usually the right answer. To her and many others, the absence of any outside suspects, the lack of ransom or robbery, and the discovery of Trina in a place tied directly to Ian's own account left little room for alternatives. Even seasoned observers echoed this sentiment. Reporters covering the 2022 arrest wrote that while Ian was released without charge, it was clear investigators believe they know who is responsible. When prosecutors finally laid a charge in 2025, it was not for murder but for indignity to human remains. That wording carried its own meaning. Someone, and most likely Ian, had mishandled Trina's body. This interpretation fits with the broader arc of the investigation. Forensic teams removed both family cars, combed through the homes in Port Moody and Mission, and kept the case active for years. They did not name any other persons of interest, nor did they suggest a stranger might have been responsible. As one online analyst put it bluntly, there were no suspicious strangers seen on cameras, no known enemies in her life. It all comes back to an inside job. What most likely happened is not extraordinary. It doesn't involve a predator in the woods or a secret double life. It's the scenario with the fewest leaps. That Trina died at the hands of the person closest to her, and that her remains were hidden far from home in an attempt to erase the crime. For her family, that conclusion carries both clarity and pain. We are crushed that still today, no one is in custody for the murder of Trina, said her brother Brad Ibbott. His words capture the unbearable limbo, the belief that the truth is obvious, and yet justice remains just out of reach. But the shape of this case is no longer a mystery. All signs point in the same direction. The person who reported Trina Hunt missing is the same person investigators believe concealed her body. And until a courtroom confirms it, her family will keep repeating what has become impossible to ignore. Trina Hunt's killer has been hiding in plain sight.